Hey everyone, it's Prof again. Today, just doing something a little more basic. I'm working on a couple bigger videos right now that are going to take some time. So I wanted to kind of do a filler remake of a video I made some time ago, which is ranking pretty much all of the demon level monsters in One Punch Man. I'm going to be doing this in a tier list format because ranking literally all of them is a little complicated. But yeah, for the most part, we're going to be doing this overall, not just as a who can beat who. Um, so I mean, there's not much more to say. So we can just kind of get into it. As you can see, we've got quite a few tiers here. From S to F, we'll be ranking the characters, but we also have a couple extra tiers of monsters that are pretty much completely featless, and monsters that have some decent feats, but are a little complicated to scale. So I'll give an example. So here we have 100 Eyes Octopus. 100 Eyes Octopus is often considered pretty strong, usually by virtue of his size and the fact that Flashy Flash had some trouble taking him down, and Flashy Flash is obviously a very high tier character. He would solo every single demon level monster. But the problem is that most of his feats come due to the fact that he is just very large, right? And the reason Flashy Flash couldn't really do anything is because most of his attacks are only surface level. He only has a sword, right? He can't like stab a giant monster's heart because his sword isn't long enough. So that's an example of a character that has good feats in certain categories, but not enough to concretely place him on a list. Another character like that is Scale Dawn. So Scale Dawn is able to... It's implied that he took an attack from the B-class hero Wildhorn, but the B-class hero Wildhorn is strong enough to do some damage to Garo, or possibly even kill Garo, as Garo implies it's like a one-shot kill move. But that doesn't mean we know how strong he is. That doesn't mean we know how fast he is. That just means he is very durable. So usually monsters that have one really good feat will go here. But they usually don't have enough in those other categories to rank them higher, or to rank them concretely. So even though Scale Dawn has a durability feat that's better than someone like the Deep Sea King, that doesn't mean he can go above the Deep Sea King. So let's get started with that. We're gonna start bottom up, and at the bottom is pretty concretely Armored Gorilla and Mosquito Girl. These two are able to tango a little bit with Genos at the beginning of the series. It goes without saying that Genos pretty much just gets upgrades constantly throughout the whole series. Some people even argue that the Genos that fought Armored Gorilla is stronger than... where is she? Oh, some people, a friend of mine, the YouTuber Mr. Perfect Cell, actually thinks that the Genos that fought Armored Gorilla got upgraded to the point he could beat Blood-Absorbed Mosquito Girl. Now, I'm not on board with that, as you can tell, but it's pretty clear anybody that really fights a stronger version of Genos is going to be above these two. Now, Armored Gorilla is above Mosquito Girl for pretty obvious reasons. He is just straight up called the third strongest in the House of Evolution, and Mosquito Girl is just a weak test subject. So, yeah. We can actually get rid of a couple featless monsters real quick before we get super far into it. So, Internet Surfers, they don't do anything. They don't do anything of note, at least. The Giant Crow doesn't really do anything. Surprise Attack Plum is able to take down some police officers, but he can't even, like, completely destroy one, as strange as it sounds. People are going to hate me for this, but I have a whole video dedicated to this guy, and I'll just say he could go high, but we do not know enough about him due to his lack of speed feats. So I'm just going to stick him there. If you think he's top of the list, by all means. I'm not here to argue about that. The Cicada Nymph took down a couple B-class heroes, but, you know, pretty much featless, considering these guys fought Genos. This guy was able to fight Metal Bat, but the fight was mostly off-screen. We don't know if he could clash with Metal Bat. We don't know if he ever hit Metal Bat, and we don't know if he took an attack from Metal Bat. All we know was that he and Senior Centipede were able to hold him off long enough for his poison to activate. So he will just go there. So Shiver Huana would be featless. He beat up a B-class hero. Spiderino was able to blitz Stinger, which is pretty impressive, but nothing too crazy. Stinger doesn't really have any major speed feats, but he was able to threaten Garo a little bit, so he could be a little bit higher, but he'll just go there. Eyesight is unfortunately featless, so I think that covers most of them, so we can get back into the list. So with D tier, like I said, these are going to be people that could scrap with stronger versions of Genos. So here we will have, like I said, Mosquito Girl with her Blood Absorbed. We're going to put Beast King up here. Now, Beast King versus Blood Absorbed Mosquito Girl is up for debate. I'm going to say I think he is stronger, seeing as Dr. Genus was more surprised that his task force was destroyed than he was that Mosquito Girl was defeated. Even though he knows that Saitama one-shot Mosquito Girl. And most of the task force power should be comprised in Beast King, since right after Armored Gorilla gets defeated by Genos, he thinks Beast King would destroy Genos. So Beast King should be way stronger than Armored Gorilla, who is the third strongest, meaning he's stronger than the other members of the task force. So Beast King is most of the power of an above Mosquito Girl level team, if that makes sense. So it's possible he still needs the teamwork to take down Mosquito Girl, but it's also possible that the team is so much stronger that Beast King would just have to be stronger than Mosquito Girl. So take that as you will. The tiers themselves will not be 100% ordered. The tiers can be somewhat mixed and matched. Next in D tier, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, is Base Deep Sea King. Now, Base Deep Sea King could go anywhere among them. There's no way to say for sure where he would go, but he should at least be above F tier. And he should be above F tier for the fact that he's able to swap hands with an upgraded Genos. He's able to blow Genos arms off with a punch, even though this Genos has received at least one upgrade since he fought these guys. So Base Deep Sea King should be here at least. Where he goes, if you think he's above Beast King, if you think he's weaker than Mosquito Girl, it is impossible to say, but he should at least be D tier. Moving on to C tier are going to be kind of Deep Sea King tier monsters, which is going to be strange for a lot of people because a lot of people think Deep Sea King is like a goat monster or like a top tier demon. But unfortunately, he gets power crept really bad. The reason he gets power crept is because in an audiobook, Genos fights Deep Sea King in the rain, and he defeats him in a couple of attacks. It's confirmed that Puri Puri Prisoner, even in his base form, without using any angel attacks, could annihilate a monster on par with Deep Sea King. In fact, a monster on par with Deep Sea King punches him in the face, and it does no damage. Now, your response to that might be that, oh, it's probably in reference to dehydrated Deep Sea King. But what people kind of don't understand is that hydrated Sea King is his normal form. This is his normal form. And this is what Genos and the reader and the author know about. It's kind of like how Frieza in Dragon Ball, his normal form is his fourth form, but he suppresses his power into weaker forms. So this dehydrated Sea King is actually a nerf. This is his base form. So any normal statement should be about hydrated Sea King. This is even supported because when one is talking about Sonic versus the Deep Sea King, he says Sonic could defeat dry Deep Sea King. He doesn't say he could defeat Sea King, he says dry Sea King. So there's a difference between Sea King and dry Sea King. When they're talking about hydrated Sea King, they're talking about Deep Sea King. They make a distinction when they're talking about dry Sea King. So this is normal Deep Sea King. So any statements that a character compares to Sea King would be normal Deep Sea King. With that in mind, we can put Sky King up here. And then the Subterranean King here. My personal headcanon is that the Subterranean King is the strongest because he had the balls to show up before either of them. And the Sea King only showed up when Subterranean King died. And Sky King only showed up when both of them died. But that is just my headcanon. They are all stated the same level, around the same level. But obviously Sea King has the better feats. So there's that. They should all be at least around the same level. Next to them, I'm actually going to put this random guy, Free Hugger. So Free Hugger is able to do some damage to Monster Arc Puri Puri Prisoner. And like I already mentioned, a monster that is equal to Sea King punches Puri Puri Prisoner in the face and it does almost no damage. And all he gets is a slightly bloody nose, whereas this guy was shredding Puri Puri Prisoner's flesh just by touching him. So when Deep Sea King goes in and tries punching this guy, it's actually going to do more damage to Sea King than it is to Free Hugger. So they should be at least in the same level. So the next tier, B tier, are going to be kind of above Sea King level. We can start with, let's see, Bakuma. Bakuma, when he absorbs the Tiger level monster's abilities, is able to do some damage to he's able to do some damage to Puri Puri Prisoner, and seems to be more of a challenge than Free Hugger, and more of a challenge than the unnamed monster that was Deep Sea King level. So he should be there, give or take. G4 was able to trade blows and give a good fight to Genos after Season 1. And it's implied that the audiobook where Genos defeated Deep Sea King takes place between Season 1 and Season 2. The reason I say this is because the audiobooks are stated to be a continuation of the anime story, and when the audiobooks came out, all we had was Season 1. So the audiobook where Genos beat Sea King should be during or shortly after Season 1. And after Season 1, Genos got upgraded, and that's when he fought G4. So G4 gave Genos a harder time than Sea King did. So G4 would be above Sea King level. Now, this is where people are really going to get mad, but Rhino Wrestler and Devil Longhair, so these two are able to give the 3 disciples of Atomic Samurai a seriously hard time. And you might be thinking that's not impressive because those guys are A-class heroes, right? But the thing is they are straight up confirmed to be S-class level. They are not weaker than the S-class automatically. And the reason they're confirmed to be S-class level is that the 3 heroes that Garo fought at the beginning of his arc, Blue Fire and the other 2 heroes, are straight up stated to have S-class level combat ability. And obviously, another A-class hero, Spring Mustachio, does much better against Garo than those guys do. So Spring Mustachio would be S-class level in combat ability too, and Spring Mustachio and Ian can fight alongside each other against Homeless Emperor. So they should be relative, and these guys fight Ian. So they are not barely above A-class level. So Ian should scale to Spring Mustachio, who can give Garo a decent fight. He can damage Garo. Garo thinks he's, in general, pretty impressive. Garo at this point can tango with an upgraded Genos. Way upgraded compared to when he fought Deep Sea King. And for Ian and Spring Mustachio to be even comparable to that would most likely put Rhino Wrestler and Devil Longhair here. There's also the fact that Ian was able to dodge an attack from Melzigard with his back turned. And this attack from Melzigard completely blitzed and annihilated the Sky King, who's on par with Deep Sea King. Ian can also cut up Melzigard a little bit, though he did regenerate. It's still pretty impressive. So these guys should be above Sea King level. And that's just a result of power cliffing. So, yeah. Now, deciding who is stronger between these four, I think is kind of impossible. It's kind of a question of, like, what do you think is more impressive? Giving the current S-class a hard time and losing? Or being somewhat stronger than Ian? It's a little hard to say. And scaling these guys any higher is just a little too unknown. But they should, all these characters should be above Sea King level. Now this next chunk of characters should be stronger or around the level of G4 Genos. So for those who don't know, after Genos defeats this guy, G4, he upgrades himself with G4's parts and becomes strong enough that even Saitama notices that he's gotten stronger and faster. So these guys, this next chunk of characters, A tier, would scale to an upgraded Genos. So we can put Face Ripper here. People downplay Face Ripper a lot because he's kind of just like a filler demon. But this guy straight up blocks a beam from Genos. Genos shoots an incineration cannon at him, and this guy literally blocks it. And then he fights Genos in hand-to-hand combat, chops up his arms, and the only reason Genos wins is by outsmarting him. Genos has to trick him to make him lower his guard and then blast him. And that's extremely impressive. Then we can put Awakened Cockroach. Awakened Cockroach pretty much bodies the same Genos that this guy fought. Although Genos has taken some damage from his fight with Face Ripper, Awakened Cockroach is still so fast, Genos can barely keep up. Genos has to resort to his extra abilities and gadgets to take him down, meaning Genos' raw power and intelligence was not enough to do it, and Genos should pretty much wash everyone here. He literally beat G4 with intelligence, but his raw intelligence was not enough to beat Awakened Cockroach. He needed a special gadget made specifically to deal with speedsters. So Awakened Cockroach should be A tier, pretty obvious. Galewind and Hellfire are both blatantly superior to Sonic after his fight with Genos. So Sonic and Genos are able to fight each other. They're pretty much even. It's implied it was a stalemate, with Genos being stronger and Sonic being faster. Even to one, the fight was inconclusive. And these guys were superior to Sonic, so they should at least scale to this upgraded Genos. Whether they're stronger and faster than Awakened Cockroach is up to you guys. But yeah, Genos would likely have to resort to his Sticky Syrup ability he used to defeat Awakened Cockroach, since he specifically got that ability after fighting Sonic. So he would probably need that ability to defeat them. But like I said, how they compare to Awakened Cockroach is up to you guys. Then we have Senior Centipede. Senior Centipede was able to fight Base Metal Bat alongside this guy. However, unlike this guy, we actually see how he fights Metal Bat, and he's able to kind of tango with him a little bit. He's able to overwhelm him a little bit at times. And Base Metal Bat is pretty impressive, since in the same audiobook where Genos defeats Deep Sea King, Genos fights Carnage Kabuto in a simulation, and he gets instantly annihilated. But Base Metal Bat is able to do a little bit better. So Base Metal Bat is much stronger than Deep Sea King, and he is still able to he's still able to tango with Base Metal Bat. And Murata has also stated that Senior Centipede is so durable that Genos, at the time of these story events, would not be able to scratch him. That is how powerful his shell is. So these guys are more so Genos plus level in terms of speed. Like, they're not as powerful, but they could, beat up Genos with speed. Whereas this guy is just a tank. So again, like, if you think speed is better in a fight, then you can put him lower. If you think Senior Centipede is such a tank that they would never even scratch him, that's also fine. But these guys are all kind of Genos tier. They're like a little stronger, a little weaker, but yeah. We can go over a couple more of these characters now. So Pureblood is unfortunately pretty much featless. He only fights Zombie Man in a physical confrontation. A lot of people think he's strong because superficially he seems really cool. He catches bullets, which seems impressive, but unfortunately not really comparable to fighting Genos, who shoots mini nukes out of his hands. So yeah, unfortunately very featless. Demon Fan is interesting. Demon Fan fights Fubuki before the beginning of the series, or before Saitama becomes a hero. And while you can argue that Fubuki later in the story is able to do impressive things like block a Rover Blast, at this point we do not know how strong Fubuki is. So he is unfortunately not that impressive. He does have very good regeneration though, so that is notable. Grizzly Meow was able to give Genos a bit of a hard time, and this is Genos after he fought Sea King. So he should be physically comparable to Sea King. However, Grizzly Meow only caught him off guard, or only did anything when Genos was off guard and not expecting it to be powerful. And the entire fight was off screen, so unfortunately we cannot rank him concretely. Do-S is another example. Well, Do-S is weird because she has a very interesting ability, whereas most of these guys fight with raw strength and raw speed. Do-S can one-shot pretty much anyone that she touches with her whip, but it's hard to figure out how fast she is exactly due to her lack of fights. She pretty much fights the Sword Disciples when they are already distracted fighting other people, and she fights Fubuki. So I'm just going to say she could go high, but I would say she's probably B tier or maybe A tier, but it is hard to say. This monster is actually a little funny. He was in a bonus chapter called Summer, the same bonus chapter as 170,000-year-old cicada. And this is the elder version of it. This is like a superior version. And it is stated that it could give S-class heroes a hard time. So that one's a bit better compared to these guys, where they have like one good feat in one category, but this one is straight up stated to give S-Class heroes a hard time. So even the weakest S-Class hero at the time of this chapter would be Puri Puri Prisoner. It doesn't matter how strong or fast he is, he could give him a hard time. So I'm going to say he'd be F tier, but if you think that's not enough to go off of, he would go here. But I think it's funny that the data book straight up just says he could give S-Class heroes a hard time. So I'm actually going to put him here because I think it's funny. So now we get to S tier. One of the more obvious ones is Bug God. And one of the less obvious ones is Royal Ripper. People hate me for thinking Royal Ripper is strong, but these guys are able to fight Garo when he's stronger than ever, at least at the time. Garo, when he's half dead, dehydrated, and poisoned, is able to fight upgraded Genos, upgraded beyond the level of these guys. So these guys fight Genos during the Super Fight tournament, and they're around his level. Genos then gets an upgrade, and Garo, while half dead, can keep up with him, and these guys compete with a fully healed and stronger than ever Garo. So they should be above this level. They compete with Garo in speed. They take his attacks. Royal Ripper is especially underrated because Bug God is more superficially impressive. Bug God straight up takes Garo's punches. But the reason I think Royal Ripper actually has better feats, as strange as it sounds, I think Bug God is stronger, which I'll get to in a second, but Royal Ripper has better feats. Royal Ripper later is about to torture Terreo, and Garo, after evolving even more, runs up on him in a surprise attack. And even though it's a surprise attack, Royal Ripper reacts to Garo, he turns around, and he's strong enough to stab a hole in a stronger Garo. He stabs a hole in half Monster Garo, which nobody on this list compares to half Monster Garo. He does get one shot shortly thereafter, but Royal Ripper's main aspect is not his durability, and pretty much all of these guys would get one shot by half Monster Garo anyway. The reason Bug God is a little bit higher is because Gyro and Phoenix Man implied that Bug God would be able to stop Royal Ripper from killing Garo, and when Royal Ripper goes all out and starts cutting Garo to pieces, Bug God is able to grab him and stop him from attacking. And that's also Bug God in his base form. He has a transformation, which is even stronger than that. So Bug God would be a little bit stronger than Royal Ripper. Then, another controversial one, Phoenix Man. Phoenix Man straight up says he is middle management in the Monster Association and above those around him. And the hierarchy of the Monster Association is based on power. So Phoenix Man should be second to the cadres in terms of power. In fact, as I said in my S-Class ranking video, there is a volume statement that says Phoenix Man, before he even transforms, was a cadre. He was already a cadre before he transforms. That means his rank is confirmed. And it should be above the demons, since none of these guys in the Monster Association are called cadres or executives. So he's pretty much as strong as you can be without being a cadre, or second to the cadres. So above these guys, or at least around their level. If you think Bug God's a little bit stronger, I think that's okay. Seeing as Bug God's impressive feats, but they should all be at least around the same level. A lot of people think that Unihorn, Super Mouse, and Showerhead should go above Royal Ripper because right after Garo one-shots Royal Ripper, these three take attacks from Garo. But this is another example of these guys that have one really good feat, and not much else to back it up. So even though they take a hit from Garo, they don't actually ever hit Garo. And they don't actually ever do any damage to anyone. So we don't actually know how hard Super Mouse and Unihorn punch. We don't know how fast they are. We just know that they are very durable. Kind of like Scaldon. Showerhead's a little bit better. Showerhead actually causes Garo some pain and is able to tag him when Garo's off guard. So Showerhead is a bit more impressive, but I don't think that causing Garo a little bit of pain is as impressive as literally stabbing a hole into him. But it's still pretty impressive considering this is half Monster Garo, so he will still be S tier. And then at the top would go G5. G5 blatantly terrifies Child Emperor when Child Emperor annihilated Phoenix Man. Child Emperor thought that fighting G5 would use up all his gadgets and he would not be able to protect Waganma. I butchered that. Waganma. So G5 blatantly above Phoenix Man, who was already above these guys. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. This is Professor Fiction's official Demon Level Monster ranking. And if you don't like that, then you can join my Discord and talk to me. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.